Imagine yourself stepping over a low threshold into a humble Eastern European cottage at dawn. The scent of aged timbers mingles with hints of smoke and sweet onions. On a rough-hewn wooden table lie slabs of glistening chicken fat, sacred treasure in this village, awaiting their transformation into schmaltz and crisp cracklings called dry beans. Outside, mist clings to thatched roofs and cobblestone paths, while within, the hearth's amber glow promises warmth and sustenance. In an age before industrial oils and store-bought fats, every scrap of animal fat was valued. Schmaltz, rendered chicken fat, lent depth to stews, enriched dumplings, and preserved vegetables through long winters. Griebeens, tiny, golden brown cracklings, offered special indulgence, popped into bowls or wrapped in fresh bread, eaten to the last crisp morsel. Over the next half hour, we'll slow our breath to match the gentle rhythm of simmering fat, the hiss of onions as they soften, and the tender clatter of wooden spoons. We'll trace the journey from barnyard chicken to kitchen hearth, trimming fat from birds, slicing it into cubes, layering pans, and patient coaxing over low embers. We'll meet the women and men who gathered each autumn to render fats, rituals that sustained families physically and bound communities through shared labor. As you settle into this quiet exploration, let your senses awaken to textures. The pale translucence of raw fat, the rich aroma of gently frying onions, the crisp echo of removed cracklings. Picture smoke tendrils rising against stone walls and neighborly voices muted by wood-thick doors. Let us begin our journey into the intimate craft of cracklings and schmaltz, an art woven with memory, flavor, and the quiet heartbeat of village life, village and hearth. Long before the first slice of fat met the skillet, village rhythms set the stage. In this Eastern European hamlet, nestled between rolling fields and dark forest, families lived in simple wooden houses, clustered around a central courtyard. Chickens roamed freely, picking grains and clucking softly at dawn. Each household tended a small flock, not only for eggs, but ultimately for the prized fat rendered into schmaltz. On fat days in autumn, villagers awoke before sunrise. Smoke drifted from brick chimneys as fires were stoked in each home's hearth. Neighbors crossed unpaved lanes to share wood and laughter, while weathered hands unpacked crates of freshly butchered fowl. They carried chicken carcasses draped over shoulders, each cloaked in a fine, pale layer of subcutaneous fat, the very material from which golden schmaltz would flow. Inside each cottage, the hearth was more than a cooking station. It was the family's hearth and heart. Massive iron cauldrons hung from wrought iron cranes, their black surfaces mottled with past season's soot. Beneath flickering flames, stone floors reflected warm light, while earthenware jugs of water stood ready for cleaning. The hearth's mantel, an aged oak beam, bore carved initials of generations past, a testament to the cottage's lineage of fat-rendering rituals. Elders guided younger hands, trim close to the skin, but leave a bit of meat for flavor. Children, barefoot on cool floors, scurried to fetch pans, hold lanterns, and carry away empty bowls. The cadence of preparation echoed outside, the tap-tap of cleavers on chopping blocks, the thud of heavy oak doors opening and closing, and the murmured greetings in local dialects. As day's first light filtered through small leaded windows, each home's hearth became a sanctuary of purpose. The raw potential of chicken fat promised months of preserved flavor. But this work transcended mere necessity. It bound families in shared labor, transmitted ancestral knowledge, and turned communal efforts into feasts of memory. Now, with fat waiting to be trimmed, we move to the first tangible step, preparing the fat itself. With the hearth fire crackling gently, the task of trimming and preparing the raw fat began. In each cottage, a sturdy chopping block, often a repurposed millstone or heavy oak stump, stood near the hearth to catch both warmth and drips. Upon it, families laid cleaned chicken carcasses, their skin peeled back to reveal creamy, white layers of sweat and fat. Using curved knives honed by village smiths, the elders guided apprentices to carefully separate fat from muscle. The blade pressed just beneath the skin, shaving away thin, uniform slices. Each strip lay like parchment on the block, shimmering faintly in the firelight. Knives clicked on wooden handles as more fat accumulated, broad, fluted pieces destined for rendering, and smaller scraps reserved for cracklings. Beyond main strips, families sought fat nuggets, small pods of fat around organs and joints. These yielded particularly rich schmaltz. Even the membrane around the kidneys was prized. Nothing went to waste. Sinewy bits saved for broth, bones for soup stock, and every scrap of fat earmarked for flavor and light. Once trimmed, the fat required cutting into uniform cubes. In the warm kitchen, wooden skewers marked cubes an inch to an inch and a half wide. A swift chop, and each cube tumbled into earthenware bowls next to the hearth. Bowls varied, some glazed in cobalt blues or greens, others rustic clay brown, but all glinted with pale, raw fat awaiting transformation. At this stage, there was a brief pause. Village cooks tasted small slivers of fat, noting its sweetness, an ancient quality that spoke of pastures and free-range birds. A pinch of salt might be sprinkled atop cubes, a tradition in some families to coax out additional moisture during rendering. This careful preparation, trimming, slicing, salting, was a ritual of respect. It honored the animal's life and the labor bound to the land. It also ensured even, predictable rendering. With bowls full, each family member knew their role. Elders tending the fire, women overseeing the hearth, and children ferrying fresh wood. Now, the stage was set for the aromatic alchemy of onions and fat. No schmaltz in an Eastern European kitchen was complete without onions. In autumn's cool air, onions harvested weeks prior hung braided in straw ropes above pantries. Their papery skins flaked softly when peeled. Their flesh was sweet, with hints of tartness that intensified when gently cooked. At an oak table beside the hearth, a woman took a wicker basket brimming with yellow and white onions. Her fingers, calloused from years of peeling, deftly removed skins and roots. Each onion halved or quartered lay on a wooden board, glistening moist. The slicing motion, steady and unhurried, produced thin, even crescents. Onion skins gathered in a small heap, destined for homemade dyes or compost. As the hearth fire settled into glowing embers, a wide, shallow frying pan heated above moderate coals. A small measure of raw chicken fat, just enough for a base, was placed in the pan, melting into a pale puddle. Soon, onions joined the heat, sizzling into this nascent fat. The sound was gentle, a soft pop and hiss, like distant rain on stone. Onions soaked up fat, turning translucent around edges. Their aromas, sweet, savory, almost smoky, wafted through the cottage. Occasionally, a swirl of the wooden spoon nudged onions into crowded clusters, ensuring even browning. In some households, caraway seeds or crushed garlic joined the pan. The seeds snapped and darkened, adding nutty notes that complemented the onion's sweetness. A sprig of fresh marjoram, plucked from a windowsill pot, might steep alongside, imparting a whisper of herbaceous warmth. At this point, village children often gathered. They lingered near open doorways, drawn to the rich fragrance. Their breaths visible in cool morning air, they traded tales of schoolyard adventures while eyeing the simmering pan. This aromatic beginning served two purposes. It flavored the forthcoming schmaltz and created a natural sweetener that lifted the fat's richness. More than seasoning, it connected each kitchen to the cycle of garden harvest and hearthcraft. With onions soft and golden, the moment had arrived to commence the patient rendering of fat itself. Rendering process. With onions gently softened, the true alchemy began. The trimmed fat cubes, piled in earthenware bowls, were ready to meet the pan's gentle heat. One by one, cube after cube descended into the onion-lined vessel, each hissing upon contact. The pan brimmed with shimmering blocks of pale fat nestled among amber slices. Hands adjusted coals beneath, widening or narrowing the fire's glow. Too hot, and fat browned too quickly, too cool, and rendering stalled. The ideal flame was a low, steady orange, flame lapping only the pan's bottom edges. As minutes passed, cubes began to shrink, edges curling. Saucy ribbons of liquid fat streamed into gaps, joining the pool beneath. The onions, now golden brown, bathed in new richness, deepening their color to burnt amber. A wooden spatula coaxed cubes to roll, ensuring even heat contact. The scene was hypnotic. The gentle crackle of fat releasing, the muted sparkle of liquid pooling, and the rising fragrance of sweet onion-kissed fat. Occasionally, skimmers removed stray bits of debris, tiny membranes or darkened flecks, so the final schmaltz remained clear. Village cooks paused between stirs. They leaned close, inhaling the aroma, a harmony of cooked onion, rendered fat, and hint of farmland. They monitored progress not with a clock, but by sight and sound. As cubes fell past translucent stages into shriveled golden morsels, they knew beans were forming. When the fat pool had grown ample and no large cubes remained, the pan was removed from heat. A hush fell over the kitchen. The rich, amber liquid glowed like captured sunlight. This was schmaltz. Purer, deeper flavor than raw fat. Ready for straining, clarifying, and storage. But first, the cracklings themselves. Beans, crispy bits of rendered fat, and caramelized onion awaited rescue. With a slotted spoon, each golden shard was lifted, dripping fat back into the pan, then deposited into waiting bowls. The crackling's surface glistened. Some held caramel edges, others curled into delicate crisps. This patient rendering honored slow craft. No hurry, no waste. Every drop of fat and slice of onion transformed into nourishment and memory. With pan emptied and cracklings collected, families prepared for the final stages, clarifying schmaltz and storing both fat and crisp treasures for months ahead. Beans were the first fruits of this hearthside labor. Glistening and golden brown, they were removed from pans into shallow bowls lined with paper or cloth to absorb excess fat. Each village household had its favorite vessel, a pewter basin etched with floral patterns or a simple wooden trencher, its surface hardened by years of use. Children and elders alike gathered around the table to taste beans. A hush fell as the first shard was lifted between fingers. Its texture was delightful, a crisp snap yielding to a tender, slightly chewy center. The flavor combined onion sweetness with nutty depth from slowly rendered fat. Some cracklings bore darker edges, where onions caramelized into tiny, savory jewels. Some preferred gribeens with fresh rye bread, dense, sour, and studded with caraway seeds. Others sprinkled a pinch of flaked sea salt or cracked black pepper. In certain regions, gribeens were mixed with chopped hard-boiled egg and minced chives, creating a celebratory spread for market days and family gatherings. In winter, gribeens were spooned over hot bowls of sauerkraut soup, or injected color and flavor into thick porridges of buckwheat. Summer saw them tossed into cool cucumber salads or sprinkled atop vegetable fritters. Their versatility made them a pantry treasure, a flash of golden comfort in both simple and festive dishes. Meanwhile, the process of collecting cracklings carried deep social meaning. Family members swapped stories as they worked. Tales of youthful escapades, memories of grandmothers teaching the craft, or gossip about the harvest. Guests arriving mid-process were invited to taste. A bowl of gribeens on the stoop drew neighbors in from muddy lanes, forging bonds over shared indulgence. Each bite of gribeens carried not just flavor, but lineage. Recipes and preferences passed from mother to daughter, father to son. Disagreements over ideal crispness or onion ratio sparked gentle debates. Rituals as cherished as the cooking itself. These cracklings, though humble, symbolized abundance in scarcity, joy in routine, and the enduring sweetness at the heart of village life. Schmaltz collection and clarification. With cracklings safely harvested, attention returned to the amber schmaltz pooled in the pan. Still warm, it was carefully ladled through a fine woven cloth or cheesecloth lining a funnel perched over stone crocks. This straining removed any stray onion fragments or tiny debris, ensuring a clear, pale gold fat. Patience guided the process. Schmaltz dripped slowly, each translucent drop catching hearth glow. A gentle swirl, once the funnel began to clog, coaxed fresh liquid through, and cooks replaced cloths as needed. Bowls of fresh hot water stood ready to rinse cloth between pours, maintaining unobstructed flow. Once strained, crocks were set aside to cool. In the kitchen's cooler corners, near open windows or on stone floors, fluids congealed gradually, turning from liquid gold to soft, opaque white. A thin film of residual water evaporated over hours, leaving pure fat that sealed itself against air. Families often added aromatic touches before final storage. A bay leaf per crock, a sprig of dill, or a few juniper berries imparted subtle notes that matured over weeks. Others seasoned schmaltz lightly with salt, adjusting levels to culinary needs. In some traditions, tiny cinnamon sticks or cloves lent a whisper of warmth to sweet noodle dishes prepared later. As crocks cooled, lids were placed, wooden circles or wax-soaked cloths tucked under string. Then crocks went to cellars dug beneath kitchen floors or earthen pits outside. These cellars maintained steady, cool temperatures, around 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, ideal for fat preservation through winter thaws and spring's first thaw. In households without cellars, families used root cellar alternatives, buried crocks in straw-lined holes, or kept them in cool stream water troughs. Each method reflected local climate and ingenuity, but all shared the goal: preserve schmaltz's purity until needed. Stored schmaltz had myriad uses. In daily cooking, its rich, savory depth elevated soups, stews, and vegetable sautés. On holidays, it transformed sweet noodle puddings and filled dumplings. At harvest festivals, schmaltz-soaked pastries signaled celebration. And for many, the sight of pure fat in crocks evoked comfort, a reminder that hearth and home endured year after year, community and rituals. Rendering schmaltz and harvesting green beans were household crafts, but the heart of these traditions beat strongest in community gatherings. In many Eastern European villages, fat weeks arrived each autumn, days set aside to process surplus fat before winter's deep freeze. The entire village joined in, turning individual labors into shared celebration. Picture a wide village green on a crisp September morning. Tables and benches arranged beneath spreading linden trees hosted churns and pans. Women carried fat-filled bowls in one hand and braids of onions in the other. Men brought stacks of wood and arranged small fires. Children chased each other between clusters of adults, clutching cookie-like cracklings caught along the way. Villagers exchanged techniques. One taught how to layer onions and fat for best flavor. Another demonstrated the fine mesh sieve that kept schmaltz crystal clear. Elders recalled how, a generation prior, rendering took place entirely beside indoor hearths. But now, communal outdoor fires offered space and fresh air. As simmering pans lined the green, cooks in embroidered aprons lifted spoons of hot fat into bowls, tasting and adjusting seasonings. Pots of steaming borscht or mushroom ragouts warmed nearby, each ladled with a swirl of schmaltz. Vendors sold fresh bread loaves, braided with poppy seeds, perfect vehicles for scooping green beans. Festive songs rose around the fires. Folk melodies, taught by grandmothers, echoed through stands of drying peppers and garlic. Couples danced in slow circles, their feet stirring fallen leaves. Beneath the trees, long tables hosted shared feasts. Cracklings in bowls, plates of dumplings drizzled with schmaltz, and glasses of fermented apple cider clinking in toasts. Children collected small clay dishes of schmaltz, dipping chunks of sweet apple into the creamy fat, a playful taste of savory and sweet. Storytellers recounted old legends of winter's first snow and the fat-rendering rituals that kept homes warm and bellies full through frozen months. At dusk, fires dimmed to embers. Crocks of schmaltz, now cool, were loaded onto wagons. Each family received tagged crocks, numbered by household, to take home. Shared work transformed into shared bounty. Neighbors helping neighbors. Kinship forged through melted fat and shared flame. Back in individual cottages, the ritual continued in private moments. A mother stirred schnitzeled potatoes with a spoonful of schmaltz for supper. A father spread green beans atop porridge for breakfast. Each use recalled the green, sunlit gatherings and the village's collective care. Over time, emigration carried these customs abroad. In cities from New York to Sydney, immigrant communities recreated fat days in backyards and church halls. They braided onions, lit charcoal stoves, and passed down recipes in old-fashioned script. Even today, these gatherings link generations. Children learning the craft of rendering fat much as their ancestors did. Thus, schmaltz and cracklings transcend mere ingredients. They became cultural threads, weaving together home, hearth, and community. In every golden drop and crispy morsel, the village's history endures, softening the coldest nights with warmth, flavor, and the shared joy of simple craft. Our journey through the intimate art of cracklings and schmaltz in an Eastern European village comes to rest. We began among free-ranging chickens and humble cottages, trimmed fat by flickering hearths and sliced onions with practiced care. We heard the hiss of fat meeting heat, watched dry beans emerge crisp and golden, and witnessed amber schmaltz flowing through cloth into waiting crocks. These simple acts, trimming, layering, rendering, carried weight far beyond sustenance. They wove individuals into communities, seasons into celebrations, and homes into havens against winter's chill. Each crackle of rendered fat and each spoonful of pure schmaltz encapsulated generations of knowledge, shared with quiet reverence around autumn fires. Today, in our fast-paced world, we may overlook the slow alchemy of fat rendering. Yet, its lessons endure. Patience, respect for ingredients, and the joy of shared labor. A small batch of homemade schmaltz can reconnect us with our ancestors' kitchens. A bowl of cracklings can evoke the warmth of a village green at harvest. If this meditative exploration stirs your curiosity, consider carrying the craft forward. Try rendering a cup of schmaltz in your own kitchen, with onions or your favorite herbs, and taste the sweetness of tradition. Share cracklings with friends or family, recounting the rituals woven into each crisp morsel. Thank you for joining this quiet journey into hearthside alchemy and community craft. May the memory of golden schmaltz and crackling dry beans inspire you to slow down, savor simple joys, and honor the humble fats that once fueled warmth, flavor, and stories in villages far and wide.